Chapter 50. Did I misunderstand? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Elder Itachi suddenly coughing violently, Shinji kindly asked if it was okay in an attitude of caring for the elderly. Unexpectedly, after the other party came to his senses, he cursed, "That's a bunch of nonsense. Uchiha Madara is very unhappy now, and the consequences will be serious. What a joke. How dare he say that it would be nice if he, Madara Uchiha, were a woman. If Aoki Pheasant wasn't still valuable, he would have really wanted to reveal his true form and teach this ignorant brat a lesson, and, if I insist on being a girl, why is he a woman and Hashirama is not?" In the normal behavior of the two of them, he, Uchiha, is the stronger one. After being reprimanded inexplicably, Shinji felt a little emotional, his face turned red, he frowned, and became angry. How can this be nonsense? I have some basis for saying this, okay? But I thought to myself that the other person was really weird, and I didn't mean to say that he was excited, but considering that Uchiha Madara was the clan leader in the past, Aokiji was so direct in his effeminate attitude towards him. As the elder Itachi who once guided Uchiha Madara, he was in a normal mood. Elder Weasel snorted and looked at him coldly. He wanted to see what this brat could say. If it doesn't satisfy him, haha, next, don't blame him, train with intensity, as long as you don't die, train to death. Shinji touched his throat and moistened his throat. Ahem, listen carefully. As they spoke, Uchiha Akira and Fugaku glanced at each other in unison, considering that the other party was not playing according to common sense, and they were quite curious about what Aokiji would say. Aokiji raised a finger and made an eloquent appearance. As far as I know, Uchiha Madara and the first Hokage were once enemies and friends, otherwise they wouldn't have finally joined hands to create Konoha Ninja Village. Elder Weasel glanced sideways. So what? Aokiji shrugged. If Uchiha Madara is a woman, wouldn't it be obvious? Elder Weasel frowned dissatisfied. How obvious is it? Shinji glanced at Elder Itachi, who had a wrinkled face, and grinned. Elder Itachi must rarely read youth romance novels. Uchiha Madara behind the scenes. Shinji said while gesticulating, you know. A man and a woman like this who fall in love and kill each other at the beginning, and finally understand each other and achieve perfection is a royal love. Don't you think that Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara can be substituted for a little bit? Perfect fit. The two went from being enemies and friends to building a village together. To a certain extent, they have achieved success. If Uchiha Madara was really a woman, I think there would be no such thing as Uzumaki Mido. Behind the scenes, Uchiha Madara's mouth twitched slightly. This is all a bunch of nonsense. Shut up. Aokiji, who was a bit addicted, ignored Elder Itachi's order and said to himself, I think if the two of them had gotten married and had children, I think that Uchiha Madara wouldn't have suddenly and inexplicably left the village. And then when I return to the village, I won't suddenly get crazy and have a battle with Senju Hashirama. Hey. Behind the scenes, Madara Uchiha really couldn't stand it anymore. Why did this bastard become more and more addicted as he talked about it? Moreover, he was not out of his mind, but for a lofty ideal, Aoki was too involved in the drama and did not notice Elder Itachi's interesting expression at this moment, and continued, the result was one death and one injury. After that battle, Senju Hashirama also passed away early because of the hidden dangers left behind, and disappeared. With the intimidation of the god of ninja, the enemies who coveted the fertile land of the fire country once again stretched out their fangs, so the war happened as expected. At this point, Aokiji sighed, I think if Uchiha Madara were a woman, none of this would have happened. Even after combining with Senju Hashirama, the two opposite forces would interact with each other, and Senra would be defeated. With the power of all things, the world will usher in true peace. After listening to Aokiji's well-founded analysis, Uchiha Akasane was shattered and speechless. Except for the last sentence, which sounded like the same thing, he was talking about the same thing in the middle, but, the logic is inexplicably smooth, which is completely off the mark. I really don't know what kind of nonsense this kid is thinking about all day long. Uchiha Akari's expression was speechless. I really want to cut your head open with a knife and see what's inside, to think that you can come up with such a mess. I think Uchiha Madara has a spirit in heaven. If he knew what you said, he would probably be so angry that the coffin board could not hold it down. After saying that, he looked at someone on the side and asked, Elder Weasel, are you right? After saying these words, Uchiha Akira thought Elder Itachi would agree with his point of view, but unexpectedly the other party was lowering his head, showing a look of serious thinking, which was very intriguing. Elder Weasel, what's wrong with you? Uchiha Aka was puzzled. Elder Itachi shouldn't really think that this kid's nonsense was reasonable. Elder Weasel raised his head slightly and looked at Qingji's eyes, revealing Yuan Xian's pupils. Tell me the last words you just said again. What if Uchiha Madara is a woman? Elder Weasel. I'm referring to the last sentence. Qingji understood and replied, when two completely opposite forces collide with each other, can they gain the power of all things? This sentence sounds docile, not like something a kid of your age could say. Elder Itachi remained calm on the surface, but behind the scenes, Uchiha Madara was in a state of turmoil and looked very surprised. It is naturally impossible for Aokiji to see the inscription on the tombstone of Nanga's shrine with the power of his eyes. In other words, this little devil actually realized it on his own, which surprised him. Qingji laughed. You say this, it sounds very handsome. Elder Itachi was stunned for a moment. Handsome? Qingji chuckled and said, yes, don't you think that sometimes I say this occasionally, and it sounds like I am very knowledgeable? Elder Weasel, he may be overthinking. Elder Weasel gave him a meaningful look. In that case, please translate for me. Aokiji organized his language and replied, actually, there is nothing easy to translate. Senju is a family famous for its physical energy, and our Uchiha is a family famous for its eye power. Yin and Yang, although they are two completely opposite forces, they can play a complementary role. That's why I said that if Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama get married, they can gain the power of all things. After all, we Uchiha and Senju are already arrogant among the others in terms of power, so how powerful will our descendants who possess both powers be? As the leaders of the two families get married, the clan members they lead will naturally put aside their prejudices and start to contact and marry each other. Then perhaps one day in the future, Senju and Uchiha will form a brand new family, and by then, the power of this family will be inestimable, and it will be difficult for any ninja clan to compare with it. Under the control of absolute force, war will naturally be impossible, and the world will usher in true peace. Aokiji's analysis was well-founded, and Uchiha Madara behind the scenes lowered his head slightly and fell silent. If one goes by what Aokiji said, birthing an heir through two races would be much more reliable than transplanting Hashirama cells. For a moment, Uchiha Madara even had self-doubt. On the contrary, the two interact with each other to achieve everything. Did I understand it wrong?